Chuck Schumer, as of the time of this recording anyways, is pushing forward with a plan to vote on blowing up the filibuster in order to pass the Democrats' voting rights bill, which of course is anything but. The vote could happen today, despite the fact that he clearly does not have the votes to succeed, not just in regards to the Republicans who universally oppose the move, but also in regards to several Democrats who are standing in the way. Over in the House, Democrats did their part passing the so-called Freedom to Vote Act on a party line vote. To put this into perspective, the legislation is so bad that not even closet Democrat Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney crossed the aisle. That vote then put the ball back in the Senate's court, where again, the filibuster would have to be destroyed in order to secure passage. Now, that's when something amazing happened. In a surprise move, Kyrsten Sinema called up the White House and let them know she was about to give a floor speech. And then, just like that, she proceeded to end Joe Biden's presidency, at least from a legislative standpoint. We'll of course watch the clip right after this quick commercial break to pay some bills. Do you have a personal butcher? I certainly don't. Well, until now. I introduced to you the Personal Butcher. They offer you the highest quality meats by partnering with best-in-class farms located in the United States. Okay, so here's how it works. They'll send you a custom box every 4 weeks, and you can pause or cancel at any time, or just change the frequency of deliveries. The Personal Butcher believes that quality meat shouldn't be a hassle to get your hands on. They want every home in America to have access to the best quality, and with the same convenience as getting the mail from your mailbox. So let's talk quality. They offer the best quality products raised here in the United States: grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, anabolic-free pork. Their meat is 100% raised, processed, packed, and shipped in the United States. It's processed from family farms in Idaho, Montana, and Iowa. It's then packaged and shipped out of their Chicagoland area distribution center. So if you're interested in feeding yourself and your family from a high-quality source you can trust, while at the same time supporting this channel, give the Personal Butcher a try by hitting that link in the description box.
Eliminating the 60-vote threshold will simply guarantee that we lose a critical tool that we need to safeguard our democracy from threats in the years to come. It is clear that the two-party strategies are not working, not for either side, and especially not for the country. Now, it's comfortable for members of each party, particularly those who spent their career in party politics, to think that their respective party alone can move the country forward. Party control becomes a goal in and of itself, instead of prioritizing a healthy, appropriate balance in which Americans' diverse views and shared values are represented. But when one party need only negotiate with itself, policy will inextricably be pushed from the middle towards the extremes. And I understand there are some on both sides of the aisle that prefer that outcome, but I do not. And I know that Arizonans do not either. Our country's first president, George Washington, a leader whose wisdom I borrowed at the conclusion of the 2020 impeachment trial, he warned against political factions more than 200 years ago, saying that extreme partisanship could lead to the ruins of public liberty. I was no party man myself, Washington wrote, and the first wish of my heart was, if parties did exist, to reconcile them. Today, we serve in an equally divided Senate, and today marks the longest time in history that the Senate has been equally divided. The House of Representatives is nearly equally divided as well. Our mandate? It seems evident to me. Work together and get stuff done for America. And the past years have shown when a party in control pushes party line changes exceeding their electoral mandate, the bitterness within our politics is exacerbated. Tensions are raised within the country, and traditionally, nonpartisan issues are transformed into partisan wedges. We must address the disease itself, the disease of division, to protect our democracy. And it cannot be achieved by one party alone. It cannot be achieved solely by the federal government. The response requires something greater and, yes, more difficult than what the Senate is discussing today. We need robust, sustained strategies that put aside party labels and focus on our democracy, because these challenges are bigger than party affiliation. We must commit to a long-term approach as serious as the problems we seek to solve, one that prioritizes listening and understanding, one that embraces making progress on shared priorities and finding common ground on issues where we hold differing and diverse views. This work requires all Americans everywhere. Efforts to fix these problems on a bare majority party line will only succeed in exacerbating the root causes that gave way to these state laws in the first place, extending our descent into a more fragmented America. This work is our shared responsibility as Americans. I share the disappointment of many that we've not found more support on the other side of the aisle for legislative responses to state-level voting restrictions. I wish that were not the case. Just as I wish there had been a more serious effort on the part of Democratic Party leaders to sit down with the other party and genuinely discuss how to reforge common ground on these issues. My Republican colleagues have a duty to meet their shared responsibility to protect access to voting and the integrity of our electoral process. We need a sustained, robust effort to defend American democracy, an effort on the part of Democrats, Republicans, independents, and all Americans in communities across this country.
Okay, so I thought we would start with the most important statement of all. Quote, "There's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold to pass legislation," unquote. Now, folks, I really can't emphasize enough how important, how absolutely critical it is, especially in today's political environment, at least in the long run, to hear her very publicly make such a blanketing statement. It's almost impossible to reverse at this point for her. She continues, quote, "What is the legislative filibuster other than a tool that requires new federal policy to be broadly supported by senators representing a broader cross-section of Americans? A guardrail inevitably viewed as an obstacle by whomever holds the Senate majority." So true. Once again, Sinema's speech represents her most direct and public defense of the filibuster yet, making it appear all but certain that she is not going to back down. Let me restate the obvious. This means the Democrats' push to rig the 2022 election by legalizing ballot harvesting, banning voter ID, mandating large-scale absentee voting, forcing ridiculous early voting periods, and funding campaigns with taxpayer money is dead in the water. Sinema is the deciding vote, and she's made her decision. It's not going to happen, folks, even though she claims to personally support the legislation at hand. But it's not just the voting rights farce that's at stake here. Joe Manchin at this point is a no-go on Biden's Build Back Better reconciliation bill. And while she's remaining in the background, Sinema herself has yet to offer her support for the bill, citing numerous provisions that don't meet her approval. So, if the filibuster remains intact, that marks the end of essentially the entirety of Biden's agenda. I'm not sure what's left out there for him to pursue going into 2022, certainly nothing of note. So, of course, the reaction to Sinema's stand from the left was swift. One Democrat had the nerve to call her a white supremacist. Imagine that. Such original thinking over there on the left. While others noted her lack of visibility in Arizona, an obvious hint to primary Sinema in 2024. Then there was Jennifer Rubin, one of my favorites over on Twitter, who made sure to give the most brain-dead take imaginable. She tweeted out, "Sinema is effectively asking the authors of Jim Crow and vote rigging to give their permission for her to stop it. This is worse than incoherent or cowardice. It's moral disgrace. Ask the segregationists for permission to vote for Civil Rights Act, ? Unquote. Oh, and here we go. Nina Turner tweeted out, "Doing the GOP's bidding and using right-wing talking points to deny voters' rights legislation is an act of white supremacy. Now, I certainly don't know much about Sinema, but I'm sure that's not going to convince her, guys. These people never learn. Early on in this debate, I could just tell it would come to this for her and probably Manchin. Accusing Sinema of being racist was always going to backfire. Sure enough, it did. It would be like accusing a Trump supporter of driving a Prius or maybe a Subaru. All they've really succeeded in doing is driving her further into her corner, and that corner has led to the near total destruction of the Democrat agenda. Yet, even after they've borne the consequences of their ill-fated strategy, what do? They double down, because every day is an IQ test when you're a Democrat. Now, as I hope you, being a Republican, I'm loving every damn minute of this. The Democrats are tearing themselves apart over a bill that was never going to pass constitutional muster anyway. This situation kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and every July the traveling carnival would come to our small town for a few days. I remember feeling great joy watching the town bully I absolutely hated spend all of his money on one of those claw machines, and come up empty-handed. But by all means, keep feeding it quarters, you idiot. Some of this came by way of redstate.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.